Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Lekon Onobanjo. The headlines at this hour. As rescue operations continue in Bodija, Ibadan, Oyo State Governor says Tuesday night's blast was caused by mining explosives. Rivers State Assembly clears 9 ex-commissioners for Governor Fubara's cabinet. Tension spills into streets after President Asumani's re-election. Details to come your way shortly. News Central now at this hour begins in the west of the continent, where Rivers State House of Assembly, Nigeria, has rescreened and cleared all 9 former commissioners who resigned from Governor Siminalayi Fubara's cabinet in the wake of the political crisis rocking the state. The commissioners had, in November last year, tendered their resignation letters amid the face-off between Fubara and his predecessor, former Governor Nyesom Wike, now Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. However, Fubara a few days ago resubmitted the names of the 9 nominees to the State House of Assembly for clearance. During plenary on Wednesday, the former commissioners were not subjected to any question as they were asked to take a bow and leave the chamber. Let's now tell you that President Bola Tinubu has violated a new directive he recently issued on cutting down the number of people on his entourage during local and international travels. Last Tuesday, the president on the NAV 001, his son, Seyi Tinubu, a senior special assistant, private secretary, Aderemi Damilotun, its principal. To discuss this, we're being joined by Jide Ojo, who is a public affairs analyst. Jide Ojo, once again, thank you so much for talking to us on the news.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon.
So this is Nigeria's president that had said some weeks back that, of course, he gave a directive anyway, that, of course, government expenditure will be slashed by 50–60% thereabout. And now we are seeing a departure from what he said, talking about the entourage that are meant to follow both the president, the office of the vice president, office of the first lady of the country, and some other parastatals and parts of government or ministries, departments, and agencies of government. But then we are seeing the president not doing as he had given the directive for. What does that say about the government's stance to actually reduce costs, reduce spending, and instead channel that money into building or investing in Nigeria's economy?
Thank you. It's very unfortunate that 7 months into this administration, President Tinubu has chalked up over 3 billion in travel cost, and far higher than what his predecessor in office spent. And when the news, the press release came last week that the president has deemed it fit to trim his entourage, it was heartwarming news, but little did we know that this is just much of political gimmick. In my column in the Punch of today, I actually engaged this issue, and I feel that what the president, even if he had been sincere with cutting down the cost of travel by 60%, it will still be like using, taking a cup of water in the ocean, because what actually consumes much of our overheads is not just travel. We have far too many ministries, departments, and agencies that needed to be trimmed. We have the Steve Borosai report, which has been there since 2011, for which white paper report is out, and former President Buhari said he was going to implement. I thought that's where the president should have taken off, by reducing the number of ministries, departments, and agencies. But what we saw was clear opposite of that, by instituting the highest number of cabinets ever seen in this country. 48 ministers, plus minus president, vice president, Chief of Staff, the Secretary to Federal Government, Head of Service, and maybe National Security Advisor, you are going to be having about 56 or about 54 member cabinet. But that is even on the side. There are several other issues that needed to be engaged if we want to reduce the cost of governance. Apart from travel, there is also the issue of whether we need two chambers at the National Assembly. In 2012, Senegal reduced its National Assembly by one by scrapping the Senate. Likewise, in 2017, Mauritania followed suit. In 2019 October, Italy decided to vote by reducing the number of its National Assembly, the Senate, and its Congress by 1/3. And that is the way to go for Nigeria, given the fact that our budget, 28 trillion budget in 2024, is likely going to be funded by borrowing, fresh borrowing. So we need to walk the talk. We cannot just be saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I mean, if you look at the Punch editorial of yesterday, of Monday rather, 15th of December, speaks to, profligacious spendings, extravagant spendings by our political leaders. And many of them are under the guise of seeking foreign direct investment. The Punch report of yesterday said over 20 billion, if I'm not mistaken, has been spent by 14 states without one single foreign direct investment attracted in the last 3 years. Yet you have states spending billions purportedly to look for foreign direct investment, but none to show. Is it in an insecure environment you want to attract foreign direct investment? Look at the convoys of governors, look at the convoy of the president. It's not just about the travel cost, it goes down. We need to block leakages. There is a lot of leakages. Government-owned enterprises are not even remitting what they should ordinarily have remitted to the foundation account.
Yes, now Jide, sorry to cut in. Permit me to play the devil's advocate a bit in this particular discourse. It's been said in some quarters that this particular directive by the president might not expressly be carried out to the letter, most especially in the case of the president, because they feel that the security of the presidency is paramount when he has to move from point A to point B. And when it comes to ensuring that there's adequate security for the president, there's a need for him to go with a team that he can trust. So for some people that have said that, oh, he should move with a particular team, probably from Aso Rock to the airport, then the security apparatus in a state or a particular place where he's visiting, then those ones or those states should provide a security team that would escort him from the airport to whatever destination that he's hoping to go to. That should suffice. Might not actually suffice, because if a president does not really trust security teams from other places, then he definitely would have to go with the people that he entrusts his own safety into. So having to cut down on his entourage, a number of people that have to move with him, might not suffice in this case. Do you think that is a tenable excuse?
Yeah, I buy that. If it's about security of the president should not be compromised. But then it is the people who are responsible for his security that should tell him that, not you and I, ordinary citizens, bloody civilians. They know better if it's workable for the president to rely on security at the other end of his travel. I'm not sure that he goes abroad with the kind of security retinue that he goes when he goes to Hungary or COP28 or any other international meet. You cannot enter that one wrong. We need the full complement of our security details to go with us from Abuja. Well, so be it. After all, we've been bearing the cost of that for some time. But what we are saying is that, I mean, look at what happened during COP28. Nigeria has the third largest contingent all over the world, and the largest in Africa, 1,411. Even at that, assuming without considering that collected extra code, did you know that there is a finding that over 2 billion was spent on airfares alone? 2 billion was spent on airfares alone. We are not talking security here. If the president wants to cut down the cost of travel, I'm not saying he should not go with its full complement of security to guarantee his safety, given the fact that we are in a very very tense situation, and nobody wants the president to be assassinated. But be that as it may, we are talking of other contingents, people in the presidency who has no business going on those trips. After all, Peter Obi did it in Anambra. Peter Obi will carry his bag. He doesn't have to go. He goes about doing many of his. Nobody assassinated him. Wow. And we are not saying that he should not be in an armored plated vehicles. We are not saying that he should not have full complement of the security. Okay. But what I'm saying, those who do not have business attending those meetings where he goes, he should cut down, but he should go beyond cutting down cost of travel to do constitutional alterations, to also restructure the entire country to prune down the cost of governance.
So, Ajideojo, to actually speak to that, when you talk about constitutional considerations, are there policies or regulations or directives that you would recommend to ensure that such directives are carried out to the letter? Or does it even go beyond having to issue a directive? How do we force the hand of government to pruning down on its expenses to improve its fiscal position?
Like I articulated at the beginning of this discourse, there are clear examples all over the world where countries have decided, look, we cannot bear the burden of running this government. So in 2012, Senegal decided to scrap its Senate. In 2017, Mauritania decided to scrap its Senate. In 2019, Italy decided to vote to reduce the number of its senators and House of Reps by 1/3. And those options are there for us to follow.
But Gideojo,
we need to alter section 147 sub 3 of the Constitution that says that president must appoint minister from every state. That also is not tenable. We do not need more than 18 ministers, for God's sake. America, where we copy presidential system of government, runs that country with almost 300 million population, with 15 secretaries, which is equivalent of our ministers. So what are we doing with 48 ministers?
So Gideojo, we are in a country, whereby we've seen severally bills being raised, suggestions have been made at the legislative houses that the cost of running Nigeria's legislature should be reduced. But we've seen our lawmakers every single other time stepping it down and not allowing it to see the light of the day. So that's why I'm asking. We know what the Constitution says. We know what we want. But then the actors are not willing to do that. So how do we now force them to do what is needed to reduce the expenses of government, most especially the fact that these monies are being spent by these 5-10% of the Nigerian population when Nigeria actually needs this particular amount to fund and improve its economy?
That's why the president needs to start. See, there is nothing that political way cannot get you to do. We are not saying you should scrap it with immediate effect and automatic alacrity. It will go through constitutional alteration. If the president is a former senator, don't forget, is a former governor, don't forget, he can persuade his brothers governors, he can persuade his former colleagues at the National Assembly to say, look, the burden of governing this country is too huge. Let's do something. By 2027, let's reduce the number of our senators by 1/3. So instead of having 109, we have 2/3 of that. Instead of having 360 members of House of Reps, let's have 240. There's nothing 360 people are doing there that 240 people could not do. And that will save us a lot of resources.
Okay.
But then the president must start by also sponsoring the executive bill that will see to the alteration of section 147 sub 3, which says that a minister must be appointed, at least a minister should be appointed from every state of the federation. It does not make economic sense any longer.
Gideojo.
So these are the kind of things we talked about, as well as implementing the Orosai report, which has already given us the pathway to reducing ministries, departments, and agencies.
Jidojo, thank you so much for your contribution on the news.
My pleasure. Have a
And you too. Now, when I bring you the latest on the explosion in Oyo State, right here in Nigeria, we understand the Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, has disclosed that preliminary investigations by security agencies revealed that explosion that rocked the Bodija area of Ibadan, the state capital, on Tuesday was caused by explosive devices stored by illegal miners. The blast, which occurred on Tuesday, resulted in the tragic loss of at least 10 lives, with 15 others hospitalized. The impact of the explosion extended to several key locations, including the governor's office, secretariat, Oyo State House of Assembly, and the residence of the former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Chief Bola Tinubu. Additionally, damage was reported in various neighborhoods such as Ologuneru, Akpete, New Garage, Bashorun, Akobo, Songo, and Eleyele. Governor Makinde, who visited the scene of the incident on Tuesday night, assured the public that further investigations are underway. He emphasized that anyone found responsible for the tragedy would face legal consequences. Rescue operations are already in progress at the affected areas as authorities work diligently to provide assistance and support to those affected. From the scene of the blast is our news correspondent, of course, Bernard Akede, and he will be giving us heads up as regards that situation in Bodija in Ibadan. Bernard, it's nice to have you around once again.
Thank you for having me, Leko.
So, from what you have gathered so far, what is the current situation of the investigation into the explosion that occurred in Ibadan?
All right. Well, we've been seeing a lot of security operatives come in from the police to the SSS to the DSS, and right now we've been having more military presence, particularly from this afternoon. Not long before you called me, now we had the presence of a two-star general. I'm told he's the. Let me just get that confirmation very well. He's the DOC 2 division here in Ibadan, Oyo State, and he's here as well to assess what has been going on. Like you rightly mentioned, we know for now that it's an explosion. Information reaching from government quarters is that the explosion was from an illegal miner. To correct that, now it's not an illegal mining site, but it's an illegal miner who apparently was resident in this estate. We're not sure what kind of explosives exactly went off yesterday evening, but what we can categorically tell you is that the effect of the explosion has gone, from my calculation, beyond a 500-meter radius. That was information we got yesterday evening, but upon coming here this morning up until now, it's quite devastating. It's beyond 500 meters radius. The immediate impact here has torn some buildings into half and has completely shredded other buildings, destroyed vehicles, and of course there are casualties and a lot of injured persons who have been taken to the hospitals. But beyond this immediate vicinity, from as far as some people claim from places like Akobo, for those who know Ibadan, from Ring Road, they felt the shockwave effect of this explosion. We saw buildings with shattered windows, roofs all gone, and some of those clips, you have them and you've seen them, and that's actually, what we've seen so far at the moment.
Bernard, it's quite consoling to know that we have security operatives on ground anyway assessing the situation. But I'd like to find out from you, have they said, any, aside the official figures that they've given and the extent of the explosion, has any of these security personnel come out to say something about these devices or these explosive devices that actually went off? Because it's been said that it is an anomaly to have such device or an object that could cause a damage of that magnitude within a residential area. And there are meant to be clearance to be given, official documents that approves of the movement and the use of such device in such a locality. So have they come out to say something as regards that, helping us to understand why we have such a situation within a residential area?
call went off.
Hello, Bernard, can you hear me? Hello, Bernard. But I guess we just lost communication with Bernard there, but we'd like to understand if, of course, there are valid documents backing the operation of mining in that particular locality. We'll see how we can bring Bernard back to get more updates from him. But in the meantime, let's tell you that the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria has expressed worry over the state of the nation's economy. The council, while meeting in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital, is urging government to revisit policies put in place and reverse those visibly not working. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
The 2023 general elections have come and gone, with most Nigerians now focusing on more pressing concerns, such as efforts at tackling the rising insecurity and the high cost of living among citizens. Gathered here to appraise government policies over the last 7 months are Islamic scholars who have described as unfortunate the current state of the nation's economy.
Appointed those who will loot the treasury, those who will siphon the money, and we are not enjoying anything. Since 7 months now, Nigerians are suffering. That's why we brought out the team, that we shall discuss the team publicly, and then we are about, advising the government in our own communique.
The president of the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria expressed concerns, saying that the reason for supporting the same faith ticket was to have progress and good governance, a situation which he says is now being marred by appointees looting the treasury. He, however, advised that those who are found wanting for their misdeeds be replaced.
You know, we cannot be laughing now, but we are sympathetic with this government. We have advised them the way forward now is to go back to Allah. The way forward now is to change a lot of this agenda. A lot of this agenda for the hope. We have to change it. So some of these ministers should go home and rest.
The 10th Senate will focus on budgetary measures to stimulate economic growth, providing oversight on security agencies, and supporting anti-corruption efforts of the executives. Specifically, we will work to expand new policies on social investment programs, boost infrastructure spending, support medium and small enterprises through access to finance.
Muslim scholars and representatives of Islamic organizations here all agree that the nation's economy has taken a downward turn. They say the government must prove it has the capacity to rebound the economy and end the suffering of citizens. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
To security matters now. In Nigeria's northeast, troops of Operation Hadin Kai have neutralized unspecified number of Boko Haram and Islamic State of the West African province fighters during a significant week-long offensive against terrorists in Borno State. Intelligence sources reportedly told counterinsurgency experts and security analysts in the Lake Chad region, Zagazola Makama, that the land and air offensives, which began on January 7 as part of Operation Desert Sanity 3, also resulted in the clearance and destruction of over 25 terrorist camps in Sambisa Forest and Timbuktu Triangle. We'll now go on a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Don't go away. Many thanks for staying with us. We talk about health now. Nigeria's National Agency for Food and Drug Administration, NAFDAC, has strongly refuted recent claims circulating on social media that almost all paracetamol tablets sold in Nigeria are underdosed, dismissing the findings as misleading. In a statement issued on Monday, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, the Director General of NAFDAC, criticized the questionable scientific basis behind the research publication. Responding swiftly, the Director General initiated a market survey directing the sampling and testing of paracetamol tablets. Addressing concerns, Adeyeye met with the Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Group of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, MAN, to communicate NAFDAC's proactive measures. Earlier, a health technology expert, Dr. Ikpemenito, spoke to us on this.
I would agree that, the concerns about the quality of medicines has always been there. I think going back to, a couple of decades ago, Nigeria had huge, big problems with fake drugs. First of all, not to talk of even the composition of the medicines that we have. But we saw that, especially with the appointment of, Madam Dora Kuniyi, the work that she did to sanitize the industry, and brought in a number of innovations and set up the NAFDAC to actually do a lot of great work. And that has improved, the profile of medicines we have in the market, such that today you can almost, say that a lot of our medicines are actually genuine. Now, as to the question that, this current news round poses, which is beyond just having genuine medications, are the medicines, do they have the right amount of active ingredients that they say they have? In this specific instance, paracetamol that says it has 500 milligrams of paracetamol, is that actually what is in it? And I think that, as NAFDAC has said, it's important that the scientific methods around how this is done, is really looked at properly so that, the right information can be passed across to people to really understand, the profile of the drugs in our market. The composition of our medicines are really important so that when you go to the market and you buy, 500 milligrams of paracetamol, it is important that, that is the dose in it. Paracetamol, I guess, it's for pain, and so may not necessarily be, the worst thing in the world. I think the challenges are maybe when you have more important medicines, such as those for infections or those even for heart disease, those for hypertension, those perhaps even for cancer. Now, the integrity of the dosing is really important because you don't want to underdose somebody that has an infection that's serious, right? You want to make sure they're having the right dosage. So that's really important for the effectiveness of the medicines that we're taking.
Now, the National Assembly has raised budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Works from 657.3 billion naira in the proposed budget to 1.03 trillion naira. This represents 373 billion naira, or 56.7% increase from the initial figure in the appropriation bill. It also represents 65.4% increase from the amount approved in the 2023 budget. The ministry is responsible for the repairs and maintenance of over 33,000 kilometers of federal government roads across the country. A copy of the approved budget obtained showed that the increase was due to the raising of its capital budget from 617.9 billion naira to 987.3 billion naira. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, at a meeting last week, charged contractors to complete 150 kilometers of roads in the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory in 2024. We also tell you that the Delta State Governor, Sheriff Oborevwori, has been called upon to devote special attention to oil-bearing communities and riverine areas of the state, where about 80% of the state's resources to fund the 2024 budget will come from. News Central's correspondent, Austin Azu, completes the reports.
Renowned Niger Delta-born human rights and development advocate Comrade Sheriff Muladin, recently in his open letter to the Delta State Governor, said for decades the people of the coastal areas of the state have been neglected in terms of tangible infrastructural projects that are economically viable for sustainable development of the areas. He said the state's 2024 budget should provide for the neglected oil-bearing communities, especially riverine areas of the state where the resources to run the state come from. Comrade Mulade, who is also the coordinator of Center for Peace and Environmental Justice, observed that if these neglected areas were not adequately captured in the already signed budget, a supplementary budget that will accommodate and give sense of belonging to the areas should be considered.
Therefore, the governor should pay some special attention to the development of this area to give sense of belonging to the people, because it will be unfair if you want palatable. It will be unacceptable where the people who land produce the resources to fund a budget of 800 billion and the people cannot see up to 30-40% of this budget being replicated, implemented in their area, it will be unfair.
News Central crew, however, visited Ugboren community in Sapele local government area of the state, an oil-bearing community with over 20 wellheads that can be accessed by road and water.
Never see anything where we so we make sure say this is what the government do for our community. This is our Ugboren community in all day.
Government not get what they do, they give anybody, especially women. When they say this community, government go send people come say get what they will give women. At last they will snap us, carry our name, carry go. At last they not they bring anything they can't give us. Nothing will they achieve for say Ugboren community for here.
And just look at the town and video everywhere, you will see that here is pushing. Now, for me, I need standard hospital and standard school for this community. I want the development of governments.
The State Commissioner for Economic Planning, in his response, said no part of the state will be left behind in the more agenda of the state government in the area of infrastructure and human capital development.
I can assure you that the development is across the 3 senatorial zones: infrastructure, healthcare, roads, street lights, and jetties, as it were. I mean, the numbers will be unprecedented, I can tell you.
Governor Sheriff Owerri had on 20th of December last year signed into law the 2024 budget of 724 billion naira. In Asaba for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Coming up on the news, Kenya cult leader to face mental health tests. We'll bring you details in a bit. Don't go away. News Central now continues in East Africa, where a Kenyan court on Wednesday gave prosecutors 2 weeks to conduct mental health assessments of a cult leader and suspected accomplices before charging them with murder of over about 400 followers. Self-proclaimed pastor Paul Nthenge Mackenzie is alleged to have incited his acolytes to starve to death in order to meet Jesus in a case that shocked the world. Mackenzie was arrested last April after bodies were discovered in the Shakahola forest near the Indian Ocean, with autopsies revealing that the majority of the 429 victims had died of hunger. But others, including children, appear to have been strangled, beaten, or suffocated. Staying in East Africa, the incumbent president of the Comoros, Azali Assoumani, says he is pleasantly surprised by his victory in Sunday's presidential election, which has been contested by his rivals who allege ballot rigging. The 65-year-old's victory over 5 opposition challengers was expected, but does not appear to have generated much enthusiasm. Only 16.3% of the country's 340,000-strong electorate turned out.
Écoutez, c'est les Comoriens qui ont fait le choix. Donc effectivement, bon, dans nos prospectives qu'on attendait, mais ce choix-là, effectivement, nous a agréablement surpris. Mais comme je l'ai dit, c'est encore un devoir. Parce que c'est une confiance et je n'ai pas le droit de le décevoir. Maintenant, le plus dur reste à faire. C'est montrer aux gens qui me font confiance qu'ils avaient raison de me faire confiance. Et j'espère qu'on va continuer. On a tout commencé, que ce soit l'éducation, la santé, les routes, l'énergie et l'entrepreneuriat. Tout est en route. Maintenant, c'est de consolider. Mais il n'y a rien à commencer en premier. Tout à consolider.
Meanwhile, Comoros security forces responded with tear gas and arrests on Wednesday after groups angered by the re-election of President Azali Assoumani tried to block roads in the capital. Debris and burning tires were scattered in several streets of Moroni, and the Indian Ocean archipelago's largest street market lay deserted after the disputed poll results were announced. Government spokesman Hamid Msadie accused the opposition, which has denounced former military ruler Assoumani's election win as a fraud, of organizing the protests. There have been no reports of deadly violence, but Comoros, home to around 870,000 people, is politically volatile and has seen 20 coups or attempted coups in its short history since independence in 1975. In a related development, tensions have escalated along the Rwanda Democratic Republic of Congo border as Rwanda's military reports a deadly incident involving Congolese soldiers. According to the Rwanda Defense Force, 3 Congolese soldiers crossed the border into the Rubavu district near the eastern city of Goma early on Tuesday. The RDF statement revealed that the soldiers opened fire, and in the ensuing confrontation, 1 Congolese soldier was shot and killed, while 2 others were apprehended. The captured soldiers were found with an AK-47 gun, magazines, ammunition, a protective vest, and bags of cannabis. In the meantime, the DRC military has confirmed the incident, but stated that the soldiers had mistakenly entered Rwandan territory while on patrol. This comes amid heightened tensions in the eastern DRC, plagued by violence involving rebel groups, including Tutsi-led M23. Sudan's protracted 9-month conflict has taken a perilous turn as the fighting between rival generals spills over to a UNESCO World Heritage Site. An NGO, the Regional Network for Cultural Rights, reported on Tuesday that the ancient kingdom of Kush, housed within the archaeological sites of Naka and Musarawat El Sufra, is now under threat. The paramilitary forces of General Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, known as the Rapid Support Forces, are reportedly responsible for the incursion, marking the second instance of conflict at these religious sites since December. State authorities confirmed the breach and subsequent repulsion by the Air Force, assuring that calm has been restored. However, the extent of damage to the UNESCO World Heritage Site remains undisclosed. You're watching News Central now. Still ahead, U.S. to reclassify Houthi rebels as terrorist group. Details of this and the rest of the stories to come your way shortly. Away from Africa, we tell you that the United States will once again consider Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels a terrorist group after previously dropping the classification in 2021. The move will require U.S. financial institutions to freeze Houthi funds, and its members will be banned from the U.S. In the waning days of the Trump administration, officials imposed the specially designated global terrorist and foreign terrorist organization labels on the Houthis. The redesignation of the Houthis as a specially designated global terrorist entity comes amid attacks by the group on shipping and military vessels in the Red Sea. On Tuesday, the military said it struck Yemen to destroy 4 anti-ship missiles prepared to launch from Houthi-controlled areas, and which presented an imminent threat to both merchant and U.S. Navy ships in the region. Talking business now, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry held its annual economic outlook and budget analysis in Lagos, Nigeria. At the meeting, economists, analysts, and panelists reviewed key policy developments of the past year, while also crystal gazing into the year ahead, focusing on risks and opportunities. News Central's Perpetual Fasimi Peter was there and filed in this report.
The Nigerian economy weathered a storm in 2023. However, analysts believe Nigerians will start seeing the gains of these reforms in 2024.
Tough decisions taken last year were predictable in the sense of their effects. We expected to have some pain as a result of those decisions, but we expected that after the pain, there will be some gains.
Speaking further on policy changes to be expected in 2024, economist Bismarck Riwani highlighted debt rescheduling, efficient management of money supply and the foreign exchange market, including cost-reflective electricity tariff, as some of the reforms staring the government in the face. He, however, maintained that the government has 4 broad options.
do nothing. Option number 1. 2, do the wrong things. 3, do the right thing in small doses, sequencing, and then do the right things all at once and face disruption. We think that the smart thing to do is to do the right things in small doses and sequencing, sending the right signals to the market, especially our creditors.
In a situation like this, a lot of people think, oh, why don't you cut expenditure? That's not a feasible option that we have currently. And in the first place, we're not even spending enough. If you look at our public expenditure to GDP ratio, it's one of the lowest even on the continent.
For many of the panelists, addressing forex liquidity remains imperative. However, some of them also highlighted certain inspiring indicators that the economy is headed for growth in 2024.
Inflation itself, even though it's still rising, is rising at a slower pace. So, and what that means to me is we're getting towards the end of it. Oil production is rising, actually. So it's not where it needs to be, but it's rising. The refining actually coming on stream is also very positive. Budget deficits, we are now down from 6.1 last year to about 3.8, right? Moving in the right direction. Government revenue for the first 9 months of last year, despite the reform just being in the second half, by the time we have the numbers for the full year, government revenue were on target.
The Nigerian economy in 2023 was a tale of resilience amid headwinds. As we gaze into 2024, the question remains, will reforms bear fruit or will choppy waters persist? The answers lie in bold decisions, deft policy execution, and the unwavering spirit of the Nigerian people. Only time will tell if 2024 brings calm seas or another surge of economic waves. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Perpetua Fasami-Peter.
Talking sports, former Togolese international striker Emmanuel Adebayo has commended the quality of the organization of the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations. Host nation Cote d'Ivoire have reportedly spent over $1 billion to upgrade facilities ahead of the tournament. 4 new stadiums were built, while 2 were renovated in the 5 host cities of Abidjan, Bouaké, Kohogo, San Pedro, and the capital, Yamoussoukro. Airports, roads, hospitals, and hotels have been either constructed or upgraded, while significant investments were made in security, as well as joint commendations from visiting fans and viewers from across the world. Speaking to our correspondent in Abidjan, Favor Itoa, the 2008 CAF Player of the Year, also commented on the quality of the football at the tournament so far.
Obviously, yes, you can see the state of the stadium, the hotel. Don't get it twisted. The president of Ivory Coast, Mr. Ouattara, has put a lot of effort in this organization. It's beautiful. He put a lot of money inside. So yes, the change is big. Now there is a social media. Everyone is talking about it. It's everywhere. Our time is only maybe Facebook, but now it's everywhere. So it's beautiful. He scored the first goal, and obviously, this country are playing against big teams like Angola playing yesterday against Algeria, and I knew the first half would be very difficult for Angola. But obviously, going to the dressing room with 1-0 down, they believe. Now you just have to tell yourself, we are 1-0 down against Algeria, one of the best teams in the continent.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. As rescue operations continue in Bodija, Ibadan, Oyo State Governor says Tuesday night's blast was caused by mining explosives. Rivers State Assembly has cleared 9 ex-commissioners for Governor Fubara's cabinet. And we also told you that tension has spilled into streets after President Asumani's re-election in Comoros. You can send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onabanjo.